In the still hush of dawn, the forest breathed before the first human word broke its rhythm. Mist curled around the iron lattice of the observation cage, where two worlds met. One of measured science, one of unspoken instinct. A mirror stood veiled in linen waiting. Cameras hummed, notes shuffled. Beyond the bars, eyes watched. Ancient amber, unreadable. Kuma's gaze lingered, sensing change before it appeared. Dr. Asha's pulse quickened, though she told herself it was the humidity. Dr. Leo checked his instruments twice, as if precision could calm what intuition could not. When the cloth was finally pulled away, sunlight struck glass, and the forest seemed to hold its breath. For the first time, a wild mind stared back at itself. And in that silent reflection, something ancient stirred. Something that science had no language for. Hours later, the air hung heavy with unspoken tension. The mirror stood untouched, glinting faintly in shafts of sun. Kuma circled it in silence, every step measured, each breath deep and animal. He reached toward his reflection, then froze, recognizing the motion as his own. From the observation hut, Asha whispered that something beyond instinct was unfolding. Leo said nothing, though his pen trembled. The camera caught a frame where the wild and the aware were indistinguishable. Rain clouds gathered above, the air electric with anticipation. Nia approached the mirror now. Playful gestures faltering as recognition flickered behind her eyes. She pressed her palm against the glass, then pulled back, as though burned. In that fragile second, the barrier between reflection and reality wavered. The forest, the scientists, the apes, all caught in the shimmering uncertainty of awareness. The first raindrops fell, scattering the reflection into ripples of light. Kuma turned away, unsettled, thumping the earth in confusion. The mirror swayed slightly in its stand, and for a moment his reflection fractured, multiplied, distorted. Asha whispered. "He thinks it's another chimp," Leo muttered, or himself. Their words hung in the humid air, unanswered. As the storm thickened, thunder rolled through the valley like a heartbeat. The mirror shuddered under the wind's weight. Kuma retreated into the trees, leaving behind only footprints and reflection. In the flickering light of storm and silence, the scientists realized something irreversible had begun. The glass had not only shown a face, but awakened a question that would haunt them all. What if the wild was already aware of itself? The morning after the storm was thick with tension. Broken branches littered the clearing. The mirror stood crooked, mud streaked across its face. Kuma returned cautiously, his chest rising and falling in quick, deliberate breaths. He approached the glass again, eyes narrowed, movement slower this time. Not from fear, but calculation. The reflection met him halfway, mimicking his every twitch. The air between them pulsed with invisible static. Dr. Leo's voice crackled through the recorder, whispering that the line between recognition and rage was thinning. Asha said nothing. She only watched, as the wild met itself, and found both rival and truth in the same gleaming surface. Kuma lunged. A sudden, explosive strike that sent mud splattering across the mirror's surface. The forest erupted with alarm calls. Asha flinched, instinctively reaching for the console, but Leo stopped her. "Let him," he said softly. Through the shattered mud and trembling reflection, Kuma's own eyes burned back at him, untamed, bewildered, and full of fire. It was no longer an experiment. It was confrontation between self and self. For hours he avoided the glass. Nia ventured closer instead, her movements careful, almost tender. She touched the mud-smeared surface and paused, tracing the rough outline of her own face through the grime. Kuma watched from the shadows, his breathing audible even over the rain's drip. Something shifted behind his eyes, a new kind of silence, not fear, but thought. Asha whispered, "He's learning through her." Leo's pen fell still. The sun returned in slanted bands, glinting through dripping leaves. Kuma emerged, pacing closer, his reflection now revealed, not rival, not threat, but companion. He tilted his head, blinked once, then twice. Each time the reflection followed. The realization struck like lightning behind his eyes. His breathing slowed. A strange calm settled. For the first time, he reached forward, not to strike, but to touch. That evening, the jungle quieted unnaturally. Even the cicadas seemed to pause. The mirror, streaked with rain and prints, caught the last fire of dusk. Kuma sat before it, motionless, head tilted in faint wonder. Nia joined him, her reflection merging with his. Two beings, one image, and somewhere within that fragile symmetry, something wordless passed between them. In the hut, Asha whispered, "We are not observing them anymore. We are being seen." Night had fallen again, heavy and electric. The mirror gleamed beneath the floodlights like an open eye refusing to close. Kuma sat alone before it, motionless, his reflection breathing with him in perfect rhythm. Then a sound, soft, uncertain, a hoot that almost resembled laughter. In the control hut, Asha leaned forward, transfixed. "He's communicating," she whispered, though even she didn't know with whom. Leo stared at the glass, his jaw clenched. The longer they watched, the clearer it became. The reflection wasn't only responding, it was remembering. Hours passed, and still, Kuma remained. His reflection had become his world, a rival, a companion, a question. He began mimicking gestures, a raised hand, a turn of the head, a press of the lips. Each motion echoed perfectly, but this time he smiled first. The forest beyond the enclosure slept uneasily, as though sensing that something sacred was shifting in the dark. By dawn, the mood had changed. Kuma's fascination had curdled into restlessness. He struck the ground, chest thumping, hooting in frustration. His reflection did the same, perfectly mocking him. The realization seemed to torment him, trapped between recognition and fury. Nia shrieked from the sidelines, unsure whether to flee or comfort him. The mirror trembled on its stand, and the forest held its breath once again. Asha wanted to stop the test. "It's gone too far," she said, but Leo refused. "We're witnessing evolution," he argued, voice trembling. Outside, Kuma stared into the mirror again, panting heavily. His reflection, calmer, quieter, seemed to mock his rage with serenity. Then, in a moment that froze every watcher, Kuma touched his own chest. Then the images. It was recognition, pure and terrifying. A bridge had been crossed. Silence fell after the gesture. Even the forest seemed to yield. Asha lowered her camera. Leah's pen stopped mid-sentence. Kuma sat still, staring at his mirrored face, as if seeing it for the last time. When he finally turned away, his reflection remained for one impossible heartbeat longer, a trick of light or something more. Asha exhaled shakily. "Maybe," she said, "it's not about us teaching them to see. Maybe it's about us learning to look." The forest was reborn in gold that morning, beams of light threading through mist, birds calling in slow, solemn rhythm. Kuma sat before the mirror again, calm now, almost meditative. He traced his reflection's face, his movements tender, deliberate. From the hut, Asha whispered that he was no longer reacting. He was observing. Leo didn't reply. He was too busy watching the impossible. Thought reflected in fur and glass. For a fleeting instant, Kuma smiled. It wasn't imitation. It was realization. Later, the mirror became a playground of gestures. Not aggression, not mimicry, but exploration. Kuma lifted a twig to his mouth, studied his mirrored twin, doing the same, and paused. Then, slowly, deliberately, he began to use the twig as a tool to clean his teeth. Not out of habit, but intention. The forest seemed to hush in reverence, as if recognizing its own reflection in evolution's glass. When Nia joined him, the dynamic shifted again. She touched the glass, her reflection meeting Kuma's in the surface. They began moving together. Slow, synchronized, like dancers learning an invisible rhythm. For a moment, the mirror was not a division. It was communion. Asha watched, her throat tightening. "They're not just seeing themselves," she murmured. "They're seeing each other." By dusk, something had changed in the air. A softness, almost reverence. Kuma no longer saw an enemy. He lingered before the mirror as if listening. His reflection's eyes seemed to hold memory. The scientists, too, felt a shift inside themselves, though they couldn't name it. Leah's voice cracked as he whispered, "He knows it's him." Asha didn't answer. Her tears said everything. As night settled, thunder murmured far off, a soft reminder of chaos beyond the calm. Kuma pressed his forehead to the mirror, breathing slow and deep. The glass fogged where his skin touched it. Behind him, the forest glittered with fireflies, their light echoing his reflection's faint shimmer. "Inside the hut," Asha whispered, "he's crossed the line." Leo looked up, his voice barely a breath. "No," he said. "He's erased it." The first tremors came before dawn, the low, distant roll of thunder beneath a restless canopy. Rain had not yet fallen, but the forest was breathing faster. Kuma paced before the mirror, uneasy, his reflection flashing with streaks of early lightning. Naya chattered softly nearby, her tone anxious, questioning. Inside the hut, Asha pressed her palm against the condensation on the glass, feeling the vibration of the world's pulse through it. "Something's changing," she whispered. Leo glanced at the barometer, then at Kuma. "No," he said quietly. "Something's remembering." The sky broke open. Sheets of rain poured through the canopy, washing mud and memory across the clearing. The mirror quivered under each drop, its reflection warping into liquid ghosts. Kuma stood still amid the storm, eyes open to the deluge, chest rising and falling in defiance. Asha shouted through the calm, but her voice was drowned by thunder. Leah's data sheets blew across the floor, forgot. The experiment was gone. Only awe remained. When the lightning struck nearby, the world froze in white silence. For a second, everything was reflection. Trees, sky, human, chimp. All one blinding image in the mirror's trembling surface. Then came the thunder, and with it, Kuma's roar. Deep, resonant, raw. It wasn't anger, it was declaration. From deep within the forest, echoes answered him. Other chimps unseen, returning his cry through sheets of rain. The forest had joined the conversation. The storm subsided, but silence did not return. The forest murmured, branches creaking, unseen animals calling in strange synchrony. Kuma approached the mirror again, his reflection framed in a sky now clear and trembling with light. He reached toward it, and instead of fear, left a muddy handprint over his reflection's heart. Behind him, Nia did the same. It was not mimicry, it was communion. It was communion. By evening, steam rose from the wet earth, and the forest glowed like a living ember. Kuma sat before the mirror one last time that day, his reflection fractured but luminous. He leaned close, studying the faint outline of himself beneath smears of mud and sky. Behind the glass, the scientists mirrored his posture unknowingly. 4 beings, 4 reflections, each seeing themselves in the other. The forest exhaled, alive, aware, eternal. The storm was gone, but its ghost lingered in the air, a silence too deep to trust. The mirror now leaned cracked against its frame, its surface veined like a living scar. Asha replayed the footage, frame by frame, her reflection caught in every flicker of Kuma's awakening. "Do you see it?" she asked softly. Leo nodded, eyes hollow. "I see us," he said. The screen's glow washed over their faces, human, animal reflection, indistinguishable in the dim light. Leo stepped outside for the first time since the storm. The ground steamed beneath his boots, the scent of wet soil thick in the air. He approached the enclosure's edge, watching Kuma and Nia sitting quietly together. For the first time, he didn't reach for a camera. He simply stood, bare, uncertain, small. Behind him, Asha's voice drifted through the calm. "You wanted to measure consciousness," she said. "But what if it's been measuring us?" Asha entered the enclosure slowly, barefoot, unarmed. The chimps watched her without alarm. She approached the mirror, knelt beside it, and stared, not at herself, but at the smeared prints of their hands on the glass. One by one, she placed her hand beside theirs, aligning her palm with Kuma's mark. The surface was cold, slick, alive. In that single gesture, the difference between observer and observed dissolved into silence. As the day wore on, the research camp fell silent. Equipment sat idle, notebooks closed. The forest reclaimed the rhythm. Asha and Leo stood side by side, no words between them, watching Kuma and Nia rest beneath the trees. The mirror now leaned face up, catching the reflection of the sky, the vastness of it, the same for all species. Asha finally spoke. "It was never about proving if they know themselves." Leo looked up, following her gaze. "It's about whether we still do." At dusk, the forest hummed again, alive, whole, eternal. The mirror no longer stood as experiment, but relic. Asha placed her notebook beside it, letting rainwater blur her final entry. Leo turned off the last monitor and stood in darkness. Beyond the fence, Kuma's reflection shimmered one last time in the fractured glass, calm, centered, awake. In that fading light, the line between man and mind dissolved entirely. There was only recognition. Dawn unfolded slowly, like memory returning after a dream. Mist hovered low over the ground, catching the pale shimmer of the mirror now half buried in soil. Kuma approached with unhurried calm, Nia at his side. He did not flinch this time. His reflection was fragmented, incomplete, yet he seemed to accept it. From the hut, Asha and Leo stood shoulder to shoulder in silence. No notes, no devices, no words, only breath. In the mirrored shards, the forest's light danced between faces, human and wild, indistinguishable at last. Asha stepped into the clearing, barefoot, the earth cool beneath her feet. She crouched beside Kuma, the air thick with quiet understanding. He met her gaze, unblinking, and turned back to the mirror. For the first time, she saw her own face reflected beside his, not separated, but merged through the cracked glass. Leo watched from afar, tears unnoticed. The camera in his hand hung still, its lens reflecting nothing but light. The forest came alive again. Insects, wind, the rustle of unseen wings. But beneath it all, a subtler rhythm pulsed, one that both humans felt in their bones. Kuma pressed his palm to the glass once more, and this time Asha did the same, their hands separated by only a breath of reflection. It was neither experiment nor empathy. It was recognition. The ancient understanding that awareness belongs to the world, not to us. As sunlight rose higher, the mirror caught its final reflection. Asha lifted the glass gently, setting it upright one last time. It no longer showed only what stood before it, but everything around it: leaves, sky, life. Leo whispered, "We came to find consciousness. We found connection." She nodded, her voice soft, trembling. "Maybe they were never looking for themselves," she said. "Maybe they were looking for us." By twilight, the mirror was gone, swallowed by vines, rain, and time. The research camp dismantled, the humans departed, and the forest reclaimed what had always been its own. Yet deep within the clearing, among moss and silence, the fractured glass still caught faint traces of movement. A chimp's curious gaze, a flicker of sky, the memory of a face. The world had looked at itself and remembered. Somewhere in that reflection, the wild and the human became one story. Tiru.